Welcome to episode 26 of Rail Talk. My name is Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds. And I want to give a big shout out to one of my favorite people in the world who had a huge win this weekend. I'm talking, of course, about Taylor Swift becoming the first artist to win Album of the Year at the Grammys 4 times. Slay, Queen.
I don't blame you for leading with Taylor Swift. Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. Patty, can we pan the winner's circle picture for the Holy Bowl? You'll notice, that somebody is not there. Who could it be now? Is it President Clinton? No. Is it, a famous dignitary? No. It's Joe Bianca who's not there. Joe.
The same train that brought John to Brooklyn could not bring me to the airport in time to go to Florida. Very, very sad story. But maybe it was good luck not having me there. Maybe I'm not invited anymore.
No, you're definitely invited, but now we just have to win it all over again in the next race down in Florida.
And maybe pay for an Uber to get me down there. Rail Talk is sponsored by Fasig-Tipton. Fasig-Tipton had a banner opening day for the Kentucky Winter Mix Sale down in Lexington yesterday. We're recording this Tuesday, so that was Monday. $500,000 was the topper. Home Cooking, who was a Bob Baffert filly, sold as a broodmare prospect, sold very well. And overall, the sale put up huge numbers, especially for a sale that's, a really quality sale, but not considered one of the marquee sales of the year. They had a huge, huge night. 196 horses sold Monday for a gross of $7.925 million. The average was over $40,000, which was way up from the average last year, which was about $30,000. The median was up big as well, at $16,000 from last year's median of $10,500. The buyback rate was low. There was only 41 RNAs, so that was 17.3%, which is super, super solid. So if this is any indication of what the year is going to be like for Fasig-Tipton, they're going to have a kick-ass season. So we're so stoked for everybody at Fasig-Tipton for that huge opener. Hopefully it continues later on today. But yeah, lots of different prospects there, broodmare prospects, broodmares, short yearlings. Go check it out. Go check out the catalog. And also you got the digital sales coming up as well, the Lodenbach dispersal. And then we got digital sales going on every single month through June. Check them out, Fasig-Tipton.com. So it was a huge, huge weekend for 3-year-old stakes. We're going to get to all of it as the Derby fever starts to really heat up here. But the biggest story, at least in these parts, was Hades winning the Holy Bull Stakes. And we're obviously very thrilled for a DJ Stable and for Joe Orseno, who we're going to talk to in a little bit. That was a really awesome race just because, Fierceness came to him at the top of the stretch, and you thought he was going to run right on by, and Hades stiff-armed him, opened up again, galloped out huge. First of all, I want to shout out you guys for running him in that race. I think a lot of people probably saw that Fierceness was pointing to that race and thought, oh, let me go somewhere else. But this is why it pays to run your horses and take a shot, because you never know, especially with a horse coming off a layoff. John, just give me your unbiased opinions of Hades winning the Holy Bull.
I'll do my best, Jeff. I will. First of all, thank you so much to all the fans and the listeners who reached out before and post race celebration. I was overwhelmed with just how many people who watched the show, listened to the show, who were wishing us well, pre-race and then post-race. It was just extraordinary, Joe. And I know you and I talk about all the time how much we appreciate our listeners and our subscribers, but I was overwhelmed with support and just how much people, care about the horses that we represent, that you represent. It was extraordinary. That being said, yeah, running against a champ, definitely was something that we talked about and was concerning, because the horse being Fierceness was 2 for 3, and the 2 races that he won were extraordinary. He broke his maiden very impressively, and then had a kind of a clunker race, and then came back in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and just ran everybody off their feet, went gate to wire, and ran an impressive race. But as we've spoken about before on the show, it is not an easy ask to get your 2-year-old champ up to speed and back in race form as a 3-year-old. And, we talked about it with Jaywalk. We talked about it with Wonder Wheel. And it's not a given. It's not a guarantee that they're going to come back to that level and that they're going to develop to the next level. And that's why we thought that was the day. Holy Bull Day was the right race for us to take a shot at the champ and to see what would happen. Coming to the paddock, I think we were third choice. It was overwhelming how many people were interested in betting on Fierceness. I think that Team Repole, I'm not exaggerating, had 70 people in the paddock. They literally had to, the paddock is that big circular area where the horses all come in, and we're all assigned our post numbers. There's a little sign that you stand next to. So they were the 7 hole, and there was a horse in the 8 hole, and then there was nobody, Joe, on the other side of the oval, from 9 to 12, and that's where Team Repole set up. Was right there. So we were number 1, which was next to where they were. And rumor has it on good sources that when Johnny Velasquez came out to ride Fierceness, that Commissioner Repole had a few words for him and basically said something along the lines of, "This is going to be the easiest race you've ever ridden. It's a paid work." Those words were uttered. They were uttered. Wow. Not that the horses knew, not that anybody else knew, but man, it definitely got under my skin a little bit. But be that as it may, the important message on this race is you have to run the race. You can't be afraid to take shots. You can't be afraid to, is this going to hurt my win percentage? And again, it's easy for me to say that now because we won. Mm-hmm. But, all the pundits didn't pick us. The pundits were all, and they didn't pick anybody else other than Fierceness. I mean, it was like the Fierceness show, and everyone was waiting for that race to come up. I couldn't be prouder of Hades. I couldn't be prouder of Joe Orseno. I'm so happy for him because he's one of the top trainers, over the decades. He's won Triple Crown races. He's won Breeders' Cup races, and for him to have a horse on the campaign is just, it's so heartwarming for me because I've known Joe for 35, 40 years. And it was just extraordinary to see a guy of that talent and that skill level back on the main campus again and in front of everybody. And, to me, that was the big takeaway from the race. Yeah, it was an important Derby prep, and there's lots of road between now and the Kentucky Derby. But just for Joe Orseno and his team to be involved and to have a horse again on the campaign, that was really important for us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, because I would love to know how he came to train that horse, because you guys have moved a lot of your stock to Mark Casse, but I do see you have horses with Joe every once in a while, so I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about how that happened, how that came together. And John, the other part of the story of the Holy Bull, as much as we're afraid to not make the story about you for 5 seconds, is Fierceness, and the fact that he flopped at odds on, and the fact that now I think has a little bit of a reputation. I won't be too hard on him because he's only run 4 times, but a little bit of a reputation for being faint-hearted, because the 2 times that he was able to just get loose and run in the clear and kind of just do his own thing, he ran away to huge wins. The 2 times he had a little bit of adversity, the sloppy track and the Champagne, he didn't get away all that great. And then this time when he had a horse eyeball him, he backed up and he retreated pretty badly and was like a well-beaten third. Like there was no... It's one thing if like he gets into a fight and then the other horse just, out fights him barely down to the wire, because like that's a 50-50 thing. He spit it, basically. He spit the bit at the 8th pole or the 16th pole at the latest. And, Chad's horse ran by him too and ended up getting second. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to be too hard on him, but John, that's got to be a factor going forward. Maybe next time they just send him and, hope that he gets loose on the lead, because this to me is a detriment to otherwise a very talented horse.
And he is, and I'm glad you said that last part, because he is very talented. Look, he's the champ. There's a reason why he won the Eclipse Award. It was because of his performances when he did win, and he was just super impressive. Joe. Again, that being said, I am very confident that as much as Todd Pletcher and Team Repole wanted to win the Holy Bull, that was not the most important race that they have, slated for him in the upcoming months. I'm sure that they thought this was going to be kind of an easier win, an easier race at least. And I am guarantee you that he was not cranked to the nth degree to win the Holy Bull. No offense to the Holy Bull, but it's a grade 3. It's a stepping stone. It's a prep for down the road of what's more important. I would be more concerned if they run Fierceness in the Fountain of Youth and the Florida Derby, and he kind of throws in a lackluster race. Then I would be concerned about, well, what's his future? And was he just kind of a flash in the pan and a very talented 2-year-old? But as we've always said, it is difficult to get to the next level, especially when everybody else is, growing and developing as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody's going to be ducking him next time. Now kind of the word is out a little bit that if you go eyeball to eyeball with him, he might not have that extra punch. But like I said, he's still a lightly raced horse, very talented. Like, obviously don't want to write off a horse who has that much ability and is still has the potential to make some major noise later in the year. But that wasn't the only 3-year-old race this weekend. We had a pretty good round of preps and 2 really impressive horses in particular in Mystic Dan, who romped in the Southwest at Oaklawn. That was just one of those races where he was like zooming over that slop. And I would just wonder if it was like he just handled the track better than everybody else did. Was the rail good? Because like he looked like he was shot out of a cannon in the stretch of that race. Got a 101 buyer, won it like 11-1 or so. And then the horse that I think is, to me, the top 3-year-old in America right now is Nysos, who won at the Bob Lewis out at Santa Anita. And shout out to West Point Scatify, who I thought ran a very good third in that race. He had only run once before. He had a 6-furlong maiden win to his name, stretched out to 2 turns, stepped into Stakes Company, set a fast pace from the outside draw. He ended up getting beaten like 5 or 6 lengths by a really nice horse. He got a 91 buyer. So he's got an 84 and a 91 now in his first 2 races. Only $120,000 purchase at the Fasig Mid-Atlantic sale. So similar purchase price to Hades. So I thought he ran really well. But Nysos was like, stumbled at the start, and it was just never in doubt and just cruised home. And then to me, like, and this was the conversation after the race, was like the whole Baffert and Churchill Downs thing. Like, I don't want to get into the weeds of that again, but it is going to be kind of a bummer if he runs off the screen like that again in the Santa Anita Derby or whatever, and he's not in the Kentucky Derby. I'm not going to say there's an asterisk, but there's going to be a question over whether or not this is good for the race that the best 3-year-old in America isn't in it. John, what did you think?
Yeah, Nysos was emphatically the most impressive 3-year-old that ran on a jam-packed day of 4 Kentucky Derby preps, and I say that owning one of them. So that from a very biased opinion, I was really impressed with Nysos. He's bred to run 2 turns. He's bred to run all day. I love the cross of Nyquist over Bernardini mare. He looks the part. He had it in cruise control the entire way. The way that Nysos won is, I think, the way that everyone anticipated Fierceness to run. I think everyone anticipated that horse was going to just be in cruise control, let the speed go out there, and then make a big run down the stretch. And that's exactly what Nysos did. He handled it. He went 2 turns for the first time. He ran against a solid group. And, certainly, Joe, that is the horse that is number 1 on the hit parade. And yeah, we beat the champ in Fierceness, but I would not want to run against Nysos right now. I mean, I'd be happy to run against him, hopefully in a Triple Crown race when the money ratchets up, and you should, run against the best of the best of the crop. But man, he was impressive. He was super impressive. And you mentioned Scatify, your horse that ran 3rd. Again, if buyer numbers are equal everywhere across the board, technically he ran a better buyer number than we did to win the Holy Bull.
I mean, it's right there. And it's, I think you get extra credit for turning back the 2-year-old champion. But yeah, especially because that was only his second start and he only had that 1 6-furlong race. I thought, everybody was very, very stoked to see him run as well as he did. So we're very excited about him.
I was also excited to see, sorry to interrupt you, but how about the fact that 3 out of the 4 prep races were won by what I would call unfashionable pedigrees and, relatively less expensive horses than what usually wins these races. And I couldn't be happier for the 3 trainers that represented those horses, because, Butch Reed and Joe Orseno and Kenny McPeak to an extent, they don't get the kind of notoriety that a Baffert or a Chad Brown or a Pletcher or Asmussen, that there's 5 or 6 or 10 trainers that Brad Cox that you would mention ahead of McPeak, Orseno, and Butch Reed. And it's no reflection on their ability to train a horse into a good race, but it was refreshing for me to see those guys win preps for the Derby and to continue to have the dream for another 4, 6, 8 weeks, and maybe even have representation in the Kentucky Derby. So I think it's good for the industry that some of these trainers have horses, some of these families that, I don't mean human families, I mean equine families that are represented now in the winner's circle in these races. And the fact that really none of the other three, other than Nysos, none of the three you would say were budget bursters. That a lot of people in the industry can afford to buy any of those 3 horses that won the races other than the Lewis. I think that's great for the industry.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Cause then it gives the impression that you just you gotta be smarter than someone rather than just have more money than someone. Right. That's to me is a big thing. What keeps people coming back is that you can find these horses at lower levels in the auction or, falling through the cracks in the auction who you just see something in them that maybe not everybody else saw when they're chasing after the $1 million yearlings and 2-year-olds. I mean,
someone I really
twice now, John, you get 2 interruptions.
Someone I really, really respect once told me that the horse industry is a meritocracy.
Who was that genius?
I don't know. Was that me? This time it was you, Joe. This time it was.
Whoever it is should have a statue and have that chiseled on the statue.
Meritocracy.
There.
And I'm happy that I actually pronounced it correctly.
You did. Very good. You're coming along. Listen, one other thing that I think that I agree with you about about having smaller trainers have big horses on the road to the Kentucky Derby. I just hope that the Derby broadcast is not all about who's not there. And I worry that there's going to be a lot of good stories and it's all going to be about who's not there. It does make it for an interesting setup in terms of the Preakness and the Belmont. If you do have these Baffert monsters that are not able to run the Derby, I think you might even have smaller fields in the Preakness than you have had in recent years. If you know that there's a new shooter who might have been the Kentucky Derby favorite, was waiting for that. But that's a discussion for another day. Lots of great 3-year-old racing still to come. And if this weekend was any indication, it's going to be a great Derby season. Rail Talk is sponsored by The Green Group. The Green Group is the #1 accounting firm in the horse business, and there's one reason for that. No other CPA firm knows the horse industry like they do. Len Green owns over 200 horses, and DJ Stable has won over 2,500 races, including Hades in the Holy Bull this weekend. Shout out to Len and shout out to everybody at The Green Group. I know you guys all root for those horses super hard, so we're really excited for you to have a horse potentially in the Kentucky Derby later this spring. Can't wait for that. The Green Group has over 800 clients because they make them money and save them taxes. Here's a special offer for listeners of Rail Talk. Listen up. Len's offering a complimentary and confidential half-hour consultation. He guarantees you will get value. I know people have already taken advantage of that. Go hit him up at 732-634-5100 and do it before tax season, before tax day, which is a little over 2 months away. He guarantees he'll find you savings and value. He'll donate to your favorite charity or whatever you want if he doesn't, but he's not worried. He's always found value before. He knows he can do it with you, and he knows that he found value in Hades too at $130,000 at the sale. Hit him up, greenco.com. Do it now before things get too busy approaching tax day. So we're thrilled to welcome to Rail Talk the man of the hour this week. He won the Holy Bull Stakes on Saturday for some owners that I've never heard of. He's a winner of over 2,000 races. Joe Orseno, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
We're so stoked to have you. I'm sorry I missed you on Saturday, but hopefully plenty of big races for Hades still to come. Let's talk about this because I was just talking with John about how you came to train this horse. I'm sure you both had high opinions of him at the sale. Can you just take us back there and the discussions? What was the budget? Like, how did you come to train Hades?
It's a great story, actually, because John, as always, gave me the short list, and it's my job to go over the short list when I get there. So, in walking around, I think we okayed quite a few, but, and we like to give them grades. And this one we gave a little bit better. He might have been an A-. He was high up in our ratings. So when John went over the list, he says, we have to keep this one on because you rarely give a horse an A. So, that being said, we kept him on the list, and, and we, bid on some ones earlier, didn't get them, got them. Then when he came into the ring, we, John, John's pretty, set, and he's firm, like when he gives a horse a price. So, he was set on the horse. He's very disciplined. Let's put it that way. He was set on, this horse being around 80 or 90. And when he reached that in the bidding, and he went there, rather quickly, we were pretty much out. And that's when I just kind of chimed in and said, John, if you keep going, I'll get you a partner, because we really did like him. So he said, well, if you get me a partner, let's keep going. And, that kind of pressed it a little bit more, and we ended up getting him for 130. So then I had to proceed to call the partner and say, hey, by the way, I just put you in a horse. So he had no idea.
Good. And the other guy who's in the horse is a total media hog, so you'll never get any publicity about this horse.
Right. And Joe, I think aside from the fact that the horse has a little pedigree and came from a good program over at Ocala Stud, it was really his breeze and his gallop out, right? That enamored you to want him, and to that really brought Hades to your attention.
Yeah, without a doubt. Again, going over the short list, it's not just about looking at them and watching them walk. We go over the films, the breeze, and the gallop out times, and then watch them gallop out. And this horse, it was the gallop out more than even the breeze. 21-1 was okay. Ocala Stud breeds everything a quarter. So, that being said, that, sometimes when they're going a quarter, they don't go as fast. And they seldom gallop out as strong because it's a young horse and they've already gone a quarter. So now you're galloping out. And this horse just went out another quarter equally as well as he breezed. And he just kept going. And that day we even saw he had no quit in him. So, right. That prompted us to stay on him. And we really liked him when we were bidding on him and buying him.
You mentioned that he thought he had no quit in him. It's interesting that you can decipher that early on in a horse's lifetime, in a horse's racing life. I want you to take us back to the top of the stretch of the Holy Bowl, because I think most people, when Fierceness came to him and came to his nose like that, assumed Fierceness was going to run right on by. Take us into your head. Like, did you have any doubt that he was going to respond and he was going to fight him off?
Well, keep in mind that during the running of the race, and it showed 25-50, I had John Gray next to me saying, that can't be real. That can't be real. So I wasn't sure if the fractions were good or not. And at that point, I really didn't care. When Fierceness came up to him and put his neck in front, it looked like, the horse was going to go by him. And, we're running well and nobody was moving to us at that point. So, hey, I thought we're going to be second at that point. But I also, in my heart, I knew he wasn't through. A lot of people, when you see that happen, you say, oh, you know what, it's over. But it wasn't. I knew coming out of the turn when he changed leads, he was going to give us another gear. I just didn't expect it to be that. But again, same thing like the first race, and more the second race when he changed leads and he took off in that 7 furlong race. He just finds another gear, and you can't teach that to a horse. They either have it or they don't.
And Joe, one of the things we were talking about before was we made some tough decisions on Hades, running him in December as opposed to earlier on when he was ready earlier, but we gave him a little bit more time, and then running him 3 weeks later to, in the allowance race, and then running him against Fierceness, leaving Paco on him, even though there were better, quote unquote, better riders that may have been available. And even running him in the Holy Bowl versus in the Sam Davis. What goes through your mind when you make all of these decisions? Because any one of them, people could criticize.
Yeah, well, for sure. But in my heart, I really wanted to get him ready for the third leg of the Stallion Stakes, which was the same weekend that we ran him. But I just didn't feel he was ready to go a mile and 16th as a first-time starter in a stake. So, thinking that he had a pretty good future, I thought, and we talked about it, let's do it the right way versus, he's more than just a one and done $300,000 Stallion Stakes and then you never hear from him again. So let's do this gradually. So the 5.5 was shorter than we wanted, but we decided to go in there because it was the Florida bred race. And, again, anybody that asked me that day, I said the 5.5 could get him beat because he probably wants to go a lot further, but I think we should do this. It'll be a good setup race. He'll be coming in the end. It'll teach him something. And I think what won it for us that day, and John will tell you, I made Paco get on the horse a week before and break him out at the gate. And by him doing that, Paco felt what kind of horse he had under him. And Joe, he breezed 3/8 out of the gate that day in 39. Not impressive. But Paco came back to the barn and said, this horse can run. You're right. So by him knowing the horse, when the horse broke a little tardy in the 5.5, he had enough confidence in the horse to sit still and then go 11 wide instead of trying to fight his way through, knowing that, most horses can't go 11 wide. He knew what he was sitting on, and he went 11 wide and turned it for home and just ran him down and drew away from him that day. So very impressive in all three of his starts, and he does the same thing through the stretch. He finds another gear.
Yeah, and doesn't need to run one style, which I think is key. He has that versatility. You're in kind of like a weird middle spot right now in early February, coming out of this big win. I heard you after the race saying you want to run him one more time before the Derby. What goes into that decision making? Like, obviously, it's how the horse is doing. But do you back off a little bit now? Do you keep him? Keep him on a breeze pattern? Where do you go from here to get to the first Saturday in May?
Well, again, the horse will tell us. But this morning, like yesterday, I jogged him outside on the road, checked his soundness, and he's fine. This morning, it's a little chilly down here in South Florida, and walking around the barn, he was bucking and squealing and kicking, and it's just what you want to see. It's perfect. But, he starts to tout you a little bit, like, maybe we do need to run him back in the next race. But once we start training him, ideally 6 weeks would be perfect. But, we ran him, and then we ran him 3 weeks later, and then we ran him 5 weeks later, and we were thinking about the Sam Davis just to get 6 weeks. So 6 weeks would be perfect. But whether it's 6 or 8, whether it's the Fountain of Youth or the Florida Derby, or maybe it'll be both, you want to have a fresh horse going into the Derby. That if you plan on running in it, and you want him to be able to peak at that particular time. I don't think this horse peaked yet. Paco said to me coming out of the 7 furlong race into this race after the Holy Bull, he said, he ran harder in the 7 furlong race. And I looked at him. He said he was playing today, and he still did that. So he's learning, which is great. He'll get it. The light will come on even more. He knows how to run, but he's kind of putting it all together. He's still what we're going to say is a green horse. I don't mean green like he doesn't know what he's doing all together, but he's out there and he's learning when he's doing it. And he's, the good thing is this horse seems to enjoy what he does.
Right. Yep. And Joe Bianca, I don't know if you realize, but this is the third go around that we've had horses with Joe Orseno. And both programs have evolved. When we first started with them, it was a claiming outfit. When the second go around, Joe had already been training privately for Frank Stronach and Adina. So he had a taste of what, how to develop good horses. And then this is the third go around with Joe. And I think that kind of everything is aligning the right way, where we're ready to have a good horse with him. He's ready to have another good horse as well. But, that's one of the reasons why we're so excited to have Joe as part of this. And Joe Orseno, now you have a horse that maybe is going to run in the Derby. You're in the top 10 on the standings in the championship meet of Gulfstream. What's changed for you over the past couple of years that's kind of brought you back into the spotlight?
My obvious answer I'd steal a line from Bob Baffert and say I changed my feeding program and I'm feeding better horses. but the truth is, everything is starting to kind of click. We are getting better horses in the barn, and it is due to DJ and Robert Cotran, or both putting better horses in my barn, and longtime clients, and I couldn't thank them enough. But it's more the program that I do. It's kind of like any coach, any football coach, or any team. You're only as good as your players, right? So this is my team here, and there's quite a few good horses in the barn, and when they're hitting on all cylinders, my job is to keep them happy. Obviously, you have to train them and get them fit, but my job is keep them happy and keep them sound, and hold everything together and place them properly. So, well, it's so much easier, like John said, with claiming horses, training a good horse. When you train a good horse, we have a race picked out. We're working backwards from either the Fountain of Youth or the Florida Derby. We're working backwards from the Kentucky Derby, knowing what we want to do. You can't do that with a claiming horse. The claiming horse, you just kind of run, you go through the motions, they come out of the race, you don't know when the race is going to go again. It's totally different. And just having that past experience from the Stronach days with the good horses, I've learned how to manage good horses and get them to peak into races when it counts. So that's what we did on Saturday, and hopefully it's what we can keep doing.
Definitely. I wanted to ask you about Monmouth Park, because I think of you as a guy, Gulfstream in the winter, a lot of horses at Monmouth during the summer. Monmouth has seen a lot of changes going on throughout the years. We had the Service and Navarro days where it seemed like they won every single race. Now they're gone. There was some question about whether or not the purse subsidies are going to get re-upped, but I think that's going to happen in the new year. Just give us your overall perspective about Monmouth, because I do feel like that's usually your home track during the summer.
I didn't go to Monmouth for quite a few years, and then 3 years ago I sent 8 horses there for the summer. I decided to stay in Gulfstream year round and rebuild my stable, and I think this is what we're seeing, the product. We're seeing the results now with what it took me a few years to do. So we went to Monmouth, but last summer I sent 20 horses to Monmouth with my assistant, and it really went well. We had a great meet, started 30 horses, won 10 races and 2 stakes. And, it was a good meet for us again. So we'll obviously go back to Monmouth this year. I've spoke to Dennis Drazen earlier about the subsidy, and, they have it this year. And, after that, the jury's out. But Monmouth's a great place because you're centrally located. If you have to ship one to Philly or Delaware or Maryland, it's easy. And if you go to New York or Saratoga, it's easier to get to Saratoga from Belmont than it is. It's easier to get to Saratoga from Monmouth than it is to get there from Belmont because of the traffic and everything. So it's a good ride for us. And, the truth is, it's a good centrally located place. It's got a nice track, good turf course. So it's for the summer, it's a great place to go.
And Joe, one of the other things that you're doing is you're also representing the Florida Horsemen. You're the president of the Horsemen's Association, and just in the past couple of years, under your guidance and leadership, some big things have happened with regard to Florida racing and benefits for the horsemen. Can you just educate our audience a little bit on some of those programs that have meanings for you?
Very exciting time for the people in Florida that stay year round, and for that race here, but very exciting time. We came up with a program that for workman's comp that I think is second to none, and we're getting more and more people signed up. So if you stay in Florida year round, the FTHA is subsidizing $50 a start. It's $100 a start, and if you put that to what workman's comp cost a trainer a year and what it costs now, it's cutting their workman's comp in half. And it's a big savings for a trainer, which can obviously get passed down to the owner. So it's a wonderful program, and more people are signing up. And it benefits the people that stay in South Florida year round, but it benefits the Todd Pletcher just signed up, Chad Brown just signed up, Dale Romans just signed up. So, that being said, that they're going to continue on this program when they leave here too. And they're now with the company that will charge them per start. And it's worked out so well. So this was a big feather in our cap. It's something that we've been trying to do for years. I had the idea a while ago, and Lou Smith was my agent at the time, and he put me with the company from New Orleans. And I said, Lou, if I can do this with this company, why can't we get it for the whole racetrack? So then Lou and Herb Oster, who's works for the FTHA, he's now our executive director. It may have been my brainchild, but they're the ones that took off with it and put the time in and put the many hours, and we owe a lot of thanks to Herb Oster. And unfortunately, just when this got started, Lou Smith passed away, and he was a dear friend. And, it was a shame he didn't get to see the results. But, we're all very thankful for the hard work that Lou and Herb put into this program. So that's just one thing, we also got, through working with management, Steve Screnchy, a bill from Tallahassee that the horsemen get $7.5 million for the next 2 years. And we're hoping that it continues down the road. They're working on that right now. And we've been to Tallahassee and continue with our lobbyist. And we're trying to get it for the next, forever. But anyway, we have this $7.5 million, and we're going to put that into the summer purses more than the wintertime purses to benefit the horsemen that stay here. It's really going to kick in probably in March for the cheaper races. And then with the way we figured it out with Tom Cannell and John also, working on the numbers, it looks like every purse is going to be raised $5,000. So, that is, you're talking about now a maiden 12.5, and it could be running for like 27,000. It's going to be a place to stay where you can actually make some money, save some money on your workman's comp. And the turf course is the state of the art. And the new turf guy said we'll be able to race at least 3 races a day on it in the summer. So it should keep even turf horses here now too. So Florida racing it's a good time to be in South Florida.
Absolutely. And it's a good time to be Joe Orseno with a horse on the Derby Trail. Appreciate you taking the time, Joe, and best of luck the rest of the year with Hades.
Well, it's having a good horse is what got me on the program. So I'm hoping, you have me on again just before the Kentucky Derby. So it means we're doing something right.
Let's do it, man. Thanks, Joe.
Guys, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Right. Well done.
Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. TaylorMade is handling the Loathenbach dispersal this week at Fasig-Tipton. And Mark Taylor, her little birdie, told me, said that the results have gone beyond his wildest dreams. So shout out to TaylorMade for taking care of that dispersal. And also they're involved big at the winter mix sale, which has obviously been going great so far. I saw they sold a Good Magic short yearling for $270,000. So shout out to the Taylor family and everybody at the farm. But John, it's not just auctions that TaylorMade handles. They also do foalings. They also raise horses. It looks like we have a new baby in the world that's related to you, not by blood, of course, but it's related to you and TaylorMade. Tell us about it.
We are very pleased to announce and show, Patty, you can roll the video of a Justify colt out of our mare, Earthstrike. And if you look up the pedigree, you can look it up on Arian.com. You can look up the pedigree, and it's Justify out of Earthstrike. You'll be very impressed with the commerciability of the pedigree. But look at this fall. I mean, it is just, that's what you love to see in this business, is a newborn that comes out. And kudos to TaylorMade, because not only did they send the video of the foal's first steps in life, which is always exciting, but the description that you don't see is that the foal was actually being born breech. And they actually had 3 people there at 2 a.m, pushing the foal back in, turning it around, and then letting it come out, the normal way, because otherwise that would have put the mare and possibly the foal in tremendous danger. So kudos to TaylorMade, not only for showing us the end result, but also for making sure that the end result actually came to fruition.
Full service operation. Yeah. I mean, that's what that expertise gets you. And yeah, TaylorMade has it covered from the stallion shed to the breeding shed to the foaling shed. And also obviously consigning at all these major sales. Go to TaylorMade.com to learn more. So unfortunately, we left this guy in the lurch last week. Skip, you got to come to Brooklyn if you want to be on every single show. He had some new babies introduced into the world today. Skip Anderson, our special correspondent. First of all, tell us about the new babies that you helped deliver this morning.
Well, we had a nice set of Hampshire twins born at North Dakota State University. That is my employer, where I am the shepherd of over 500 sheep for the university and the College of Agriculture.
My guy. This is all about the babies today, and thank you for sharing those photos with us. Skip is back for another edition of Tackle or Trade. Sorry we left you last week, Skip, but we're glad to have you back. So you want to just jump into it and do the coin flip?
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, you're going to call it today.
Okay. Tails never fails.
It's heads.
Until it does.
John is the winner. All right, guys. So this week with the Super Bowl coming up, we are going to have some Super Bowl focused questions this week.
Nice.
So we're going to pick your brain, get inside your heads, and see what you think about this. So, John, you're up. Over the years, there's been some fantastic Super Bowl commercials. Which one has been your favorite or most memorable? You want to tackle that or trade that?
I'm going to trade it.
All right, Joe, what do you got?
You know what I used to love? The Bud Bowl. Remember, like the Budweiser, they would have like the game between the light beer and the regular Bud. Like that would be, in a lot of years there was a blowout in the actual Super Bowl. So I'd be waiting until the third quarter commercials to see what happened in the latest Bud Bowl clip. So yeah, I miss those. They should bring those back. Am I wrong on that?
No, not at all.
Well, you're
those
right.
are great.
Is that
Right,
what
John.
started you drinking?
What?
Is that what started you down the path of drinking?
Yes. Yeah. Those were like when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So
Yeah,
no,
that's about right.
Not quite. Maybe it planted the seed. This is water, by the way.
All right, John. So your question is, if you're booking the talent for the next halftime show, who is your headliners to play the halftime show at the next Super Bowl?
Wow. And it can't be Joe Bianca or Patty Wolf. It's got to be like real talent. I'm a sucker for one of my favorite bands of all time, the Eagles. That's the band, not the team. And I would love if the remaining members would be able to come back and play, some of the oldies and goodies of Don Henley and that group. I was going to say Aerosmith, who is my all-time favorite band, but they've already done, one. And I actually saw Aerosmith a couple of years ago. We went to Atlantic City and watched them, and it was probably the 10th or 11th show I've seen of Aerosmith, and I was hugely disappointed. I think that it is past; they are past their prime, and the better days are behind them. So I would go with the Eagles, and with a little hell freezes over again, refreezes, tribute.
Sounds good. I like it.
Aging
All
yourself,
right.
John.
All right, Joe, this one's coming to you. You can tackle this one or trade this one. Let's do a little Super Bowl horse-focused one. Who was a better horse, 49er or Chief Bearheart?
Oh, that's very, very clever.
Great. That's cute.
Oh, they're a little before my time. I appreciate the question, but I'm going to pass it to John.
Oh, easily 49er. Easily 49er. I was a huge 49er fan. As a matter of fact, I still look for pedigrees that have 49er in them because there aren't that many around. But he was, in my impressionable years, 49er was one of the top horses that I can remember running. And he actually ran at Monmouth. I think he came out of his 2-year-old, if I remember correctly, he came out of his 2-year-old year, and they ran him in an allowance race at Monmouth, and it blew my mind just how impressive of a horse he was. So I would say 49er was easily one of my all-time favorite horses.
All right. Very good. Very good. All right, Joe, here's your question. The Super Bowl's on CBS this year. We're replacing Tony Romo with a current race caller to call the game with Jim Nantz. Who are you putting in the booth?
Well, first, I'm just glad we're getting Romo out of there because he's the most annoying color commentator I've ever heard in my life. I can do a decent Romo impression, I think, at some point down the road. You know who I think is first of all, I would say Tom Durkin, just because he's funny, he's good off the cuff, he can turn a phrase, so I like him. You know who's super underrated? I'm glad he's gotten like a bigger profile job is Tony Kalo. Shout out to Tony Kalo. He used to be the Finger Lakes guy. He's the one that goes, and there they go when they start the race. And he was like kind of absent for a little while. He did Golden Gate, and now he's at Turfway. So it's nice to hear him there. I like his voice. It's just one of those voices that stuck with me. But yeah, overall, I'd say TD because Durkin is he's just so knowledgeable and so funny. So yeah, please get Romo out of here. Romo's it's like someone let like a 6-year-old in the booth, in like a grown-up suit. And he's just like, Jim, I don't know about this one, Jim. What are we gonna do here? Watch, Jim. It's so obnoxious and grating. Like I might have to watch the Super Bowl on mute just because of that. You set me up for that one, Skip.
All right. Well, the one cool thing is Tackle or Trade has brought out everyone can do an impression of somebody. So we've discovered some talent. Talent discovery is what we've done here on the show.
I think that was the first non-Muppet impression that we've done.
That's right.
Maybe he is a Muppet. I don't know.
And you garnered that. You dug that out better than a 49er.
All right. You got one more for us, Skip?
All right. We're just going to go with this one. Give us your Super Bowl predictions, both of you. What's the score? We'll record this. We'll see who's closer. We'll see who's right. We'll make a game out of it.
Okay. John, you want to go first?
I will go first. I'm going to say the 49ers 30, the Kansas City Chiefs 26.
I'm going to go Chiefs 27, Niners 25.
All right.
So I guess I don't know. What's the over under for this game? I feel like we're both.
I think it's 48. Over here. I think it's 48 or somewhere around there. And I think the Niners are favored by 1.5.
2.5 now.
2.5 now.
That's to me is shocking. Like to have Brock Purdy be favored over Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Like it seems like free money to me.
Well, we'll see
next week when I'm homeless because I lost all my money.
Because you lost all your money. Hey, and Skip, just like so you know that my memory is not as wacky as I think. Yeah, when 49er ran in the Kentucky Derby and then the Preakness, and then they gave him all of 6 weeks off and ran him in an allowance race at Monmouth, and then 2 weeks later ran him in the Haskell, which he won. 4 weeks later he ran in the Travers, which he won, and 4 weeks later he ran in the Woodward. And then ran 2 other races after that. I mean, that's when iron horses were really iron horses. I mean, the horse was in the middle of his Triple Crown campaign, and oh, by the way, we're gonna bypass the Belmont because we want to run in not 1 but 2 races at Monmouth Park before the Woodward and the Naira Mile. That's when I'm reminiscing and it's romantic, but that's when horses were horses.
Nice.
Yep.
Interesting. Though I'll tell you, Chief.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief Bearhart, he had a heck of a career. If you look him up, $3.3 million in earnings, 2-time Horse of the Year on grass.
He did. No, that was out of all the questions you've asked us so far, that was my favorite. That was showing the Skip Anderson, Mensa-esque knowledge that we've come to know and love over the years.
The depth of our guy. Skip, we got to get your prediction before we wrap up. What do you see happen on Sunday?
Can both teams lose?
Yeah, me too, man. Go Meteor.
Meteor.
If I had to pick, I want to see the Niners win. Give me the Niners 31-24.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a great story, Mr. Irrelevant, to go win the Super Bowl.
Correct.
I can already picture like Mark Wahlberg starring in that movie like 10 years from now, something like that.
Sounds good.
Anyway, any big plans for the game, guys?
No, not really.
Me neither.
No, not at all. I'm just gonna fry up some or cook up some pigs in a blanket and maybe some wings because I'm a bachelor for the rest of this weekend. So,
nice.
So I'm gonna sit there in my expandable pajama bottoms and my Giants, my stained Giants uniform. The jersey's stained not because I spilled food on it, but it's all the tears that I've emoted over the past 10 years on it. But anyway, that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing.
Good deal.
Yep.
How about you,
low
Joe?
Key. No, low key. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to a friend's house or something. But yeah, it just doesn't really get me going this year's Super Bowl, unfortunately. But I say that, and then like by April, I'll be like, please give me some football.
I know, right? That is the truth. That is especially because by April the Mets will be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So we'll be jonesing for some football.
Dead ass right. All right, Skip. Thank you for jumping on. Sorry
Thanks,
to leave
Skip.
you last week, but appreciate the questions. It's always a great time.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me. And if you listeners want to get in on the conversation, DM me those questions at Baba Acres, and we'll stump John and Joe with tackle or trade.
All right, so that's going to do it for episode 26 of Rail Talk. I want to thank Skip Anderson for stopping by to play tackle or trade with us. I want to thank Joe Orseno for coming on as well. Thank you to my co-pilot, John Green, our producer, Patty Wolf, our associate producers, Anthony LaRocca, Aaliyah LaRocca, and Nathan Wilkinson. Appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate the listeners and the sponsors as well. We'll see you next week back here on Rail Talk.